Luke here. Fun fact of the day. The dictionary's description for the word torment is great bodily or mental suffering, anguish, or torture. Shit, that's my autobiography.
Way back in the beginning of time on June 26, 2014, Yacht Club Games published their Kickstarter sweetheart, Shovel Knight. The game came out to massive success, well beyond anything they could have ever expected. It didn't take long for them to get started in the game's DLC, which is 3 alternate campaigns featuring 3 of the villains in the game. These villains in question were voted by the Shovel Knight Kickstarter community to be the characters that would get their own side games. So somewhere in an alternate universe, we have a Propeller Knight, Polar Knight, and Ticket Knight spin-off. Anyways, this was their opportunity to tell different stories spanning different genres. They went for a love story, a comedy, and my favorite, the drama. And this is where Specter of Torment comes in.
Unlike Shovel Knight, which is an action-adventure fantasy game, Specter of Torment actually has a very grim story about friendship and betrayal.
Specter of Torment begins displaying that it is in fact a prequel to Shovel Knight. Throughout the game, we learn that Specter Knight is an undead corpse of a thief named Donovan, who was killed in the Tower of Fate. He even had a play in creating the Enchantress, which in turn killed his best friend Leon. In this game, Specter Knight is ordered by the big bad of Shovel Knight, the Enchantress, to enlist the strongest knights in the land to form her Order of No Quarter. Here, Specter Knight would go into revamped stages from the first game to enlist the knights by any means necessary.
Oh no.
After defeating all 8 knights and enlisting them into the Order of No Quarter, Enchantress promised Donovan that she would bring him back to life.
It's hard to classify what this game is. I mean, it's way too big to be considered a DLC or an expansion, but it's not its own game entirely, right?
Everything about this game is altered from Shovel Knight, whether it be the combat, traversal, or even the boss fights. The game also has 2 main methods of currency. You can use treasure to buy suits and upgrades, and use red skulls which can be found hidden in the stages to buy power-ups called curios. The Throwing Sickle, Dread Talon, Wheel Skull, Skeletal Sentry, Barrier Lantern, Shadow Mirror, Spider Sight, Bounding Soul, Chronos Koi, Hover Plume, Judgment Rush, and Caltrops, all of which can be later on upgraded for new special effects aside from Caltrops. One more fun gameplay feature is this challenge stage that's all the way to the left of the hub world, where it challenges your knowledge and skills in the game. You're tasked with traversing an insanely tall and challenging tower that is overly satisfying once you finally pass it. The hub world is small, but is a fun place to explore with fun people to interact with, such as playing with this dog. There's something that's just so satisfying about the traversal in this game. Zipping across the screen and wall climbing is so much fun to pull off, and you look so cool while doing it. This method of traversal is followed up by the combat, which makes the boss fights so much more fun. The boss fights have all been redesigned to correlate with Specter Knight's new moveset, which feels so cinematic.
Specter of Torment has a very similar gameplay loop to something like Mega Man. You enter the stage, you understand the stage's gimmick, you get to the end of the stage, and you fight the boss at the end of the stage. But something fun about Specter of Torment is that it actually is a boss fight in the hub world of the game.
Somewhere around the midpoint of the game, you are interrupted by a wannabe adventurer named Rise. He wants to prove his worth, and in the process is corrupted by the Enchantress.
This action won't mean much till the final stage of the game.
The final level of the game consists of Specter Knight finding the platforms to stand on himself to make his way to the Enchantress. The fight with the Enchantress is more frustrating than it is difficult, especially with her hiding underneath the stage for half of the fight. But finally when we beat her, the final boss really comes in, as she unleashes all of her power onto Rise, transforming him into a monster. Once again, not too difficult, but the fight challenges your skills with timing and jumping. Once you finally beat Rise, we learn that Rise is Leon's son, who entrusted Donovan in protecting. So Specter Knight makes the ultimate sacrifice in giving the second chance of life he has to Rise, subjecting Specter Knight to a life of torment under the Enchantress as a pawn in her Order of No Quarter.
Shovel Knight Specter of Torment is one of those special games that's only possible because of the fans, and is quite possibly the best game in the franchise. The developers went above and beyond to perfect every single inch of the game, and it really shows in the final product. It's hard to find games nowadays where the developer truly cares about the person who's playing their games. That's why Specter of Torment should be grouped into games such as Elden Ring, or Witcher 3, or even Pokemon Scarlet. Wait, no.